What's going on, everyone? Today we're going to be installing brake lines on the Wrangler. I know it doesn't sound that exciting, but they are pretty cool brake lines. They're from Offroad. They're extended, they're really nice, they're great quality, and I can't wait to film on the Jeep. The factory ones on the Jeep just really don't do enough. They collapsed on me and they're just like this really soft rubber compound type stuff. It didn't work well. They weren't long enough, whatever. We're throwing these guys on, and I do appreciate Offroad for all of the contact and stuff that they've had in this process and just the information that they've given me. Wow, let's get right into that. We just started with pulling the Jeep in the garage, getting some tools out and everything else. We got the Harbor Freight Pittsburgh 3-ton jack. It's a low profile, so it's good for like any vehicles, but it definitely does get high enough for a lifted vehicle like this. 3-ton Daytona jack stand. We got 2 of those. I don't think we're really gonna be needing all 4, not on this project at least, but we are gonna use it just in case. We're gonna probably start by either taking these wheels off or see what the job looks like if we don't take the wheels and tires off. Just kind of make that decision as I come into it. All right, so as you can see, the factory brake lines here are pretty worn. They're old, and they're like that rubber material I was talking about. So we are gonna be replacing that here. But I am gonna start with the front ones here. So it's gonna be this guy right here. I'm gonna get rid of this and replace it with this. You can see how much nicer the actual line is compared to the old factory one. And the fittings themselves are really nice too. This bracket, oh, maybe I can't see it from here. Right here. This bracket right here will be replaced. This line will be replaced up to here. And then we are going to replace it down to here. When we get under here, there's gonna be some fluid that drains out for sure. And if you let too much drain out, I've been told you're gonna have to do the ABS system bleed. Hopefully we don't have to do that, but looking at this, we're probably gonna have to do that. We're gonna start with unclipping the wheel speed sensors, well, the line at least. And there's 2 clips right here on the brake line that you're gonna wanna take off. Oh, as you can see, this little guy is already rotting away anyway. So unclip these to start. All right, and then next is the wheel speed sensor line up here on this bracket here. There's a loom that holds this and there's a loom that holds that. And we're gonna take both of these guys off. The third thing that we're going to unclip with the wheel speed sensor line is going to be actually this clip right here. Pretty easy. It is right on the knuckle, so you're going to be able to see that. Just pop that off like that. Next, really quick, we're going to take out this bracket that sits right under the spring here. I have a bolt sitting right here that I am going to pull off, and it does clip right on the other side. So when you pull off this bolt, it'll be pretty easy to pop it out. I'm going to loosen this bolt here on this bracket. And as we pull this brake line bracket out, you can see how there's like a clip on one side here with the bolt on the other side. If you do have factory brake lines and factory control arms, you may have a different setup here, but this is, however, like what most setups would look like after you get a custom lift put on. Also not sponsored, but these things that hold bolts magnetically, like when you're working on Jeeps or something, I mean, like super helpful. Everything you need can just be held in one location. The next step you're gonna wanna do is pinch this brake line off right towards the caliper. These are vice grips. You can use a bunch of different things. The simplest for me is a vice grip. After we pinch that line, we're going to take this fitting off right here. This is the caliper fitting, so you do wanna make sure that your line is pinched and you have something to catch the fluids in. I'm gonna pull that fitting off now. So when you are installing the Offroad brake lines, there's going to be a thick washer and a thin washer. So the thick washer goes on the caliper, where the thin washer goes on the other side of the banjo fitting. Once you get this fittings put on and get it hand tightened, I'm just going to kind of throw this in just a little bit. I want to make sure everything fits perfectly. If there's any sort of binding or anything, we're going to want to check on that. We've gotten that put in. You can see right here that this is actually perfectly installed. There is a V-notch right there. The line goes straight up to the V-notch because of the washer pushing it back. There's a washer on the other side of the banjo fitting. The brake line is going up. I did want to show that the factory brake line is still just hanging here. We are going to take the brake line off from this side here now, so there is going to be some more fluid coming out. But you know what? Got to do what you got to do. I've just been kind of moving around, but it is easier to just like tuck it up somewhere and just get it out of the way while you're working. All right, so I'm going to take this 12mm nut off the back side of this control arm bracket that's holding the line. There's a hard line on this side and a soft line on this side, so it's not really hard to find. Once you do this though, you will have fluid drain out, so be ready for that. But for now, I'm going to try to limit my intake of brake fluid. So as we loosen this 12 millimeter bolt right here on the end, it will pop the brake line right out. And right after that, you can hold the end of the hard line on the other side of that. Now we have the new fitting here. Make sure the threads are lined up perfectly and the fitting does thread nicely. You don't want it to cross thread. So once you get the 12 millimeter nut on this side screwed into the 19 millimeter nut on this side, go until this side stops freely spinning. Now we're gonna put the clamp back on the other side. Once we got the nuts tightened up here, we're gonna go back down to the bracket here. It's very similar to the factory one. And it gives you the opportunity to zip tie these guys right back to where they were supposed to be. All right, so we'll take that 10 millimeter socket and we're just gonna sit here and tighten this guy out real quick. Once we got that bracket tightened up, there are gonna be two little spots right here on the wheel speed sensor. This is exactly where the clamps were holding it on the old bracket. I cut those off earlier, so we're gonna use zip ties to put it back on. You can see there's a hole, zip tie, I put it through there. It's probably the simplest thing out of the whole job. There's two of them, so might want to do both. They do recommend doing this like on a lift or with jack stands, and the reason being is because you do want your suspension to be fully dropped when installing lines like this, so you know exactly where you need them. They are kind of adjustable by sliding them in and out like this. We will be testing that after the install, but for now we're just going to leave it kind of right in the middle and give it just like a, you know, good middle ground and not really worry about it. So we did just finish the steps for the driver's side. We're headed to the passenger side now. All of it is the same except for the bracket. The bracket is the only thing that's different because of the other side of the Jeep. But after this, we're gonna head to the rear and we're gonna get that full install done and we're gonna get this project finished up. Here's the brake line. Here's the wheel speed sensor. Everything looks the same. Finishing that up, we're gonna connect this wheel speed sensor line right back to the new brake line. Can't really ask for more. This was easy. So now we're under the rear. We're gonna be able to jack this thing up, put the jack stand under the axle and take the rear tires off. This is definitely gonna be recommended for the rear more than the front because of how tight everything is. We're gonna get through that, kind of speed this up and show you what the rear replacement looks like. We're gonna take a 160-pound tire and wheel combo off of the Jeep. All right, so looking at the passenger rear, you can see the brake line running right here into the caliper here and then up to the frame. All right, so there's gonna be two little clips down here. There's gonna be two right here, two, and then two. So the two in the middle are gonna either be cut or you can pop them out of the little spot that they're in. I prefer to cut them and use a new zip tie to start when I reinstall the new line. Some of this old plastic can be dry rotted and I really don't want to worry about a wheel speed sensor getting caught up on the axle. We're going to start by clamping this piece of the line off in the rear. Same as we did in the front, just gonna stop some of that dripping. So next I'm going to take the fitting off right here. This is the actual brake line fitting that hits the caliper. You're going to probably get a little bit of drip outside of the caliper because of the residual fluid in there. Right after taking the factory one off, I'm gonna throw the Grimm Offroad replacement on it. And that's gonna help just by keeping all this fluid kind of contained when we throw it on the top. You can see it evenly tucks right behind that caliper. So after doing that fitting down here and the wheel speed sensor wires, we're gonna take this bracket off right here on the upper control arm. I'm gonna throw the same bolt right back into the new one. So after we got that all positioned where we want, we're gonna head to this bracket now. And this is the passenger right side frame bracket. There is a clip right here where my finger is. We're gonna pull that out. We're gonna take this nut off and then we're gonna put the new brake line in, tighten that nut back up, and we're done the rear. All right, so we're gonna pop this guy off right here. And we're gonna put this new brake line right up in the same spot. We are gonna twist this until this nut right here stops spinning freely. This is a free spinning nut. If this stops spinning, that means you are done tightening. But after we finish tightening this up, you can wipe it off, do whatever you need to do, and we're gonna reinstall the clip on the back side of this. We're gonna take the zip tie We're gonna kind of put it right in here. We're gonna do the second one down here. There's another little third one down there. Can't really see. And then we're gonna go to the ones that sit on the bracket that we did replace with the new brake lines. As you can see in the bracket right here, there's a couple of holes where you will throw that zip tie right through. Again, I prefer to use new zip ties just in case something's dry rotted. So put that zip tie through. It looks like a mess in here right now, but it'll clean up. So the finished job looks really nice. This is going to be the zip ties that hold the wheel speed sensor into the new line. The line goes right underneath of here, directly into, the caliper back here. So everything just fits so perfect. Moving to the driver's side rear, we're going to take this tire off, run this brake line in, and then show you the finished product. So now that we've got the rear tire taken off, we're going to be able to replace all of this so much easier. I highly recommend you to take the rears off. If not the front, definitely the rears. Truly don't really know how you would get it done without it. So we did just bleed the brakes. We're testing the Jeep right now to see if it drives better, if it brakes better, if it pulls to the left or right or whatever it used to do. But right now it's seeming like it's pretty good. Like, comment, subscribe, do what you have to do, and I'll see you guys later.